My boyfriend refuses to talk to me and is suggesting we break up after I accidentally saw his burned scars for the first time, and I don't know how to tell him I don't care about them and only care about him. When my boyfriend, 24 male, was young, his house burned down due to undisclosed electrical issues. He and his father suffered severe burns, and though they survived, his mother did not. We met in our freshman year and became best friends in sophomore year. Until now, I, 23 male, had only caught brief glimpses of his scars if his shirt rode up, and he would quickly adjust it to cover them. He always hides his scars, constantly wearing jeans or pants and long sleeve shirts even if it's super hot outside. His scars start from the bottom half of his ribs to just above his knees, so this is the only way he can cover them, even bringing his pajamas into the bathroom to change into. He's done this ever since I've known him. Even after lovemaking, which we do in the dark, which doesn't bother me because I know this is what makes him comfortable. He'll immediately get changed back into his clothes before we cuddle or do anything else. Once again, I'm fine with this, just trying to explain that I know how uncomfortable he is with his scars. I know he is ashamed of his scars, and when we were friends I was fiercely protective and always changed the subject if his scars got brought up, which he always thanked me for. I have never and would never ask or pressure him to show me. I don't judge his scars or think they're ugly. I thought he knew I wouldn't judge him because some of his dad's burned scars are impossible to cover up, one of them covering half his face, and never once have I judged or even thought his dad's scars were disturbing. He's a very handsome man, they both are, which is why I'm so confused by his reaction and accusations of this. I work weird hours, I'm a nurse, so sometimes I can come home at 9 a.m., sometimes 5 p.m., sometimes the ass crack of dawn. I went to immediately take a shower. I was in autopilot and was completely exhausted. I opened the bathroom door and he was getting changed. I saw his scars. I'll admit, I stared, not because I thought they were gross but because I was having an oh shoot moment knowing I messed up. He and I have been dating for almost a year. I had to move into his place a while ago after my parents went no contact and cut me off after I came out and told them I was dating my boyfriend. Long story short, toxic Bible thumping parents, so I'm not used to sharing an apartment with someone. He blew up at me, yelling at me to get out. He has never yelled at me before this. Sure, we got in spats and small fights where he raised his voice, but he never full on yelled. I shut the door and he went quiet. I was pacing in the kitchen for almost 20 to 30 minutes when he quickly walked past me trying to leave when I stopped him. He was pissed, yelling at me that he thought I would know how to knock by now and questioning if I did it on purpose. I was trying to explain while trying not to cry because I saw how red his eyes were. I knew he was crying. I couldn't say anything, just made incomprehensible sobs as I tried to explain that I was, but he wouldn't listen and left without saying where he was going. I'm heartbroken. He texted me an hour ago with a single message of "I'm not coming home, tomorrow we can talk about our relationship." I immediately messaged him back asking what that meant and spent several minutes watching that little text incoming bubble bob in and out before he texted whether we should stay together. As if it was obvious. I have no idea what to do. He's my boyfriend. My best friend of 8 years. What the hell do I do? I love him, I can't imagine life without him. His dad is like a father to me. I have nowhere else to go if he kicks me out. Above it all, I can't lose him. I'd rather have to go through coming out again than lose him. How do I make it up to him? How do I let him know that I'm sorry and never meant to make him uncomfortable? Edit. A commenter brought up a good point that made me think, so I should specify. He was bullied for his scars. A huge bully of his from middle school always sniffed the air when he entered a class and said, really loudly, "Ew, you guys smell that? Smells like bacon's burning." He was a little chubby in middle school. Every time he entered a room then laughed. Also, in small glances, a lot of our guy friends would say how cool it is. Looks like Deadpool's skin. They were trying to be nice but failed horribly, hence my fierce protectiveness over anyone bringing it up, and his family always emphasized it doesn't matter what he looked like on the outside because he was beautiful on the inside. Seriously, what the heck? He's also mentioned having a really bad ex-girlfriend who had issues with his scars in the past but never went too deep into it, and I'm starting to wonder if that's what his overreaction and suggestion of a breakup was rooted in. I'm taking mental notes on all the comments on what's the best way to approach this, and they're really helping. Thank you. Update 2 days later. A lot of your comments were very helpful and I didn't get to reply to some, but I read them. Most of them were along the same basis. Get him to go to therapy and make sure he knows his scars aren't an issue for me. As well as setting up a place to stay in the worst case scenario that he kicked me out. Spoiler alert, that did not happen. I didn't sleep a lot last night, and based on some comments I decided to send a text that I love him and his scars don't bother me so that it could relieve some tension. He didn't respond to that, but he came back in the morning. We talked for hours, where it started with me apologizing for walking in on him and that I didn't mean to. He admitted that he knew that and apologized for yelling. I suggested we get locks on the doors and he seemed pretty happy about that. To clear the air, I asked him about whether we should stay together. Text, and if it was rooted in his ex-girlfriend. Basically, asking if she broke up with him over that. He admitted that he thought she didn't mind his scars and took his shirt off in front of her. She decided to gasp and start making a big deal about how he cheated her and that he made it seem like the scars weren't that bad and broke up with him. I have a newfound hatred for her now. He said he knew it wasn't an excuse, but his brain immediately went to that and he freaked out. I asked if he wanted to break up and he was just trying to find an excuse, and he quickly said no, specifying that he was just trying to give me an out if I wanted it. When I tell you I was relieved. He asked if I wasn't disgusted why I stared, and I said that I had an oh shoot moment of panic knowing I messed up. He felt awful and apologized for making me feel so uncomfortable in our home. Every time he says our home I have a serotonin high, and that he'd try to work on being more comfortable with his scars. That's when I suggested therapy. He instantly got defensive, saying that he already had therapy and it didn't work very well. I pointed out that the way he wants us to live isn't healthy, that we can have locks and a knock before entering policy, but him expecting me to never see him exposed was unfair to both of us. That it was his insecurities getting worse and me enabling it. He was dismissive of these points, saying how it wouldn't change things. It didn't work the first time, why would it work now? I pointed out how he almost threw out a 9-year-old relationship over me accidentally walking in on him. He tried to say that locks would help stop that from happening again. Me walking in on him, not him throwing out the relationship. And I said it might, but I don't want you walking on eggshells either. I want you to be comfortable with me. I want you to trust me. He begrudgingly agreed to talk to his dad about what therapist he went to and going to see them. I'm going to text his dad just to make sure he does this in a few days. I also repeated a suggestion that other people suggested about getting tattoos or going to couples counseling, and he just stared. He asked something along the lines, why do you care about seeing my scars so much? You didn't care before. Not mean or aggressive, just genuine confusion. I kinda laughed awkwardly and said I thought that you would show me on your own when you're ready, but I don't know about that anymore. Baby, I love you, but I don't want you to feel like you have to hide your scars from me. Nor do I want you to worry about me breaking up with you over seeing your scars. I love all of you, including your scars. He started crying. Wasn't the first time in the conversation. Tons of tears shed on both ends, and I comforted him. He said he didn't want me to be stressed out in our home and that he was sorry. He was a lot more open to couples counseling than personal therapy, which was a half win that I'll take. For now, we talked about our future some more, and I asked if he ever thought that he'd be comfortable with me seeing his scars. He said that he wants to show me, but he's not ready yet. I was happy to accept that, especially since he's agreed to couples counseling and therapy. I am so proud of him. I've summarized a lot here, but once again this was a very long talk. We got dinner and slept, which we both really needed, and as of today I'm doing research on couples therapists while he went to work. Long story short, we are getting on a better path with a plan for the future where I can see his scars. I won't be showing him this post because quite a few comments were pretty rough on him, and he doesn't deserve to read that for having a reasonable breakdown. Lord knows that man has dealt with plenty of my breakdowns. Thank you everyone for the suggestions and support.